Hi, guys. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah,
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
that darned podcast.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
Coming up today, Dan, we got a letter that we're going to be reading.
We didn't get the letter.
We didn't
wasn't
get it
to us.
Oh, dear God. I'm so glad. I wouldn't want to know the person who wrote this letter. Horrible.
But somebody got a letter.
Somebody got a letter, and we're going to be talking about it.
Oh my God! It involves it's got sex, it's got religion, it is everything.
Violence or threats of violence.
It's got all kinds of it's got magic. It's got basically curses.
Yeah. If it were a movie, it would be R-rated, and it's from a Christian.
It's a hell of a thing. It's a hell of a thing. We'll be discussing that later on in the show.
Coming up later. All right, Dan.
Yeah.
I want to start with this article more about addressing the existence of this article, right? And the issues that it brings up. From the Deseret News,
that's a local Mormon paper.
Yeah, the LDS Church owns a daily newspaper here in Salt Lake City, and they their slant is obviously, oh yeah, you guessed it, pro family, pro faith,
pro Mormons.
And so they have, I guess maybe this was an op-ed, but it's also just par for the course for the Deseret News.
Sure.
The headline says, as protests erupt, Christians ask, what would Jesus do? What would Jesus do?
Well, yes.
And I mean, if he's your only moral touchstone, then yes, please ask what he would do.
Right.
But the problem is everybody has a different answer, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly.
In the article, they actually reach out to Bishop Marion Buddy. She leads the Episcopal Diocese of Salt Lake, or of Washington, D.C.
I'm going to be talking about her a little later on.
Yeah, exactly. So I won't ruin your story by talking about her too much. But anyway, she was definitely very much in the news this last week. But they have a quote from her, and she says, some people are called to be on the streets and some people aren't. Some people are called to offer a supportive presence in one form or another, while others are just called to pray, right? As far as this is in reference to, should you be out there protesting as well? Should you be out there, how are you being an advocate for the African American and generally the racial minority groups in this country, right? It's not like the topic isn't an important one as far as like prodding people, religious people, presumably conservative Christians, right? Who wouldn't necessarily be on the side of a lot of these protesters, and asking them hard questions about where they should be and what they should be supporting. I applaud that the article exists.
Okay.
But I'm tired of this. What would Jesus do? Like, we need to give the guy a rest, right? Like seriously,
well, it's a problematic question. Yeah. Because look, you there's one Jesus, someone in Black Lives Matter might point out that Jesus, when he saw the money changers in the temple, threw a goddamn hissy fit, turned over their tables and started smacking them. Yeah. Started beating their asses. So hello, that's what Jesus might have done. And then somebody else might have said, well, Jesus would say, let he who is without sin cast the first stone. Right. I don't. So Jesus is against throwing stones, apparently. So,
very
obviously, you can't riot or whatever. And great, we can support all the positions. Fantastic. How is that useful to me?
Right. And it's just like, again, though, there's this question of, it just seems like a very morally bankrupt question to be asking in the first place, right? Because it just says that like you, the person being asked this, you're supposed to just sort of know, right?
Yeah.
But also, it's that you're having to stop and think about this guy who lived 2,000 years ago, if he lived. But anybody I don't care who they were, right?
Yeah.
Who lived 2,000 years ago, they have no perspective on our current situations.
What? How do you figure
in this world? They have literally none. They're from a complete the time like I'm sorry it's not like, obviously the human condition is doesn't change that much, right, over time.
Right.
Like, we're still dealing with a lot of, we have similar emotional lives probably, right, in a lot of ways, and we have the same wants and needs in those ways, right? We're still human beings. And so it's not like throw away any sort of ancient wisdom, right? But I don't care what Jesus would do right now. I literally fucking don't. I don't care.
How about what would you do? And you should probably sort that out yourself.
If you were a good person, what would you do? Right?
Yeah.
Like, that's the question.
I think that's a really good question.
If you happened to be a decent human being,
if you could imagine a world in which you weren't the shithead that you are,
what would you do?
What do you think you'd do?
But that's the question, right? That is the question.
It is. Yeah.
What would Jesus do?
What would
not what you're doing.
What would the not shithead version of you do? What are the letters on that? How do you get that on a bracelet? Wwtnsvoyd. Anyway,
nice.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm gonna talk about another shithead who needs to check in with himself. Jerry Falwell Jr., president of Liberty University, who you'll be shocked to learn pissed off some black folks recently, which you'd think that guy, of all people, would be just awesome for them. But indeed, no. He recently, in an attempt to call out the governor of the fair state of Virginia, where where Liberty University is located, because the governor, Ralph Northam, was requiring mask wearing, and of course Falwell was just, he was one of the first. He was a pioneer in the mask denying world. If you'll recall, we talked about Liberty University deciding that they were going to have classes almost instantly. That it didn't end up happening, or ended up being weirded out. So something ended up going squirrely with it, but they were certain they were going to have classes again, and this whole thing's just a hoax anyway. Right. Anywho, he decided to mock the governor by saying that he would only wear a mask if it contained the picture of that particular governor, Mr. Northam, from the 80s, where he very ill-advisedly went to a party in blackface. So thought that Falwell thought this was a really good dig on Northam, and tweeted a picture of a mask with Northam in blackface on it, and standing next to someone in a KKK costume.
Oh my God!
Yeah. Oh, it's a great costume. It's a classic. It goes over well every year. But yeah, it was the 80s, and for those of you who weren't around for the 80s, that was a different time. We had different standards back then. Nevertheless, it's a terrible thing that Governor Northam did, or at least that people claim Governor Northam did. So, but unfortunately for Jerry Falwell, Mr. Jr., he didn't anticipate that the black community would not like that joke very much. even though it's supposed to be a joke on Governor Northam, no. Nobody likes it when you retweet something about when you tweet a picture of somebody in blackface and use that as a prop for your own beef with somebody else. So a whole bunch of African American Liberty University students and former students and alumni are calling for him to step down as president of the school. They wrote a letter that says, "You have belittled staff," and this is beyond just this one tweet, but the tweet was sort of the lightning rod of the whole thing. And the letter said, "You have belittled staff, students, and parents. You have defended inappropriate behaviors of politicians, encouraged violence, and disrespected people of other faiths," they wrote. "Your heart is in politics more than in Christian academia or ministry."
Wow.
Yeah. And one Liberty U professor, he's a professor in their online university, an African American by the name of Christopher House, quit over the whole thing. So, oops. I guess he kind of stepped in it on that one.
Well, it's really hard to imagine him stepping in it, right? Because it just never happened. Like, well, he's always got things so figured out, right?
But really, considering how much his followers love his bullshit, it's almost hard to imagine that he can do anything wrong. Because like Trump, the people that like him will let him get away with any goddamn thing. But apparently not everybody is like that. So that's nice to know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Dan.
Yeah.
On the heels of that story, LDS Church President, that's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, as they want to be called these days.
The Mormons.
The president of the church, Russell M. Nelson, who last year, or maybe it was 2 years ago, met with NAACP officers, right? Kind of like top officers, and had a little nice little sit down and nice little chat, and it was kind of a thing. And the church has been, trying to be helpful and outspoken on issues of race, right? They're trying to, right? Well, so he comes out this week, and he's not the only sort of religious leader who's making statements in light of recent events in this country.
Right.
The Pope's had stuff to say, right?
Right.
And kind of said stuff similar. That the Pope said that racism is a sin, right? And Russell M. Nelson totally, completely is right along with that. He says racists need to repent. And he says, let's see, let's get some of the stuff that he says out of the way. He says,
okay,
we join with many throughout this nation and around the world who are deeply saddened at recent evidences of racism and a blatant disregard for human life. We abhor the reality that some would deny others respect and the most basic freedoms because of the color of his or her skin. The Almighty calls on each of us to abandon attitudes of prejudice against any group of God's children. Any of us who has prejudice against another race needs to repent. Fantastic.
Great.
That's a great
statement. I can see some problems. Just kind of right out the chute. I feel like there might be a problem there.
Well, the problem that I see is that the LDS Church still has a serious problem throughout their sort of sacred texts in particular, right? Like, this is the undeniable part, is that you go through the Book of Mormon and there is racist passage after racist passage after racist passage. The book is thematically racist. Right.
One of the first things that happens in the book is that the bad guys turn brown. And literally the evil. There's a bunch of brothers, and the good ones stay white, and the bad ones turn brown. Like, you can't have a more clear racist message than that.
And throughout the book, whenever the Lamanites, those are the brown ones, right? Whenever the Lamanites become righteous, they become white.
Oh,
right?
yay!
And lest you guys are like, oh, you guys are just like exaggerating here, right? No, here we go. I have a page of passages from the Book of Mormon pulled up.
Ooh.
And I just typed in the word white into the Finder, and it pulled up 15 matches, right?
Okay.
Let's see. From First Nephi, that's the first book.
First book of the the Book of Mormon.
Right. Is a passage that says that I beheld the city of Nazareth, and the city of Nazareth I beheld a virgin, and she was exceedingly fair and white. Fixation on her color. That's interesting. Right. Also in First Nephi, just a couple chapters later, let's see. And I beheld the Spirit of the Lord, that it was upon the Gentiles, and they did prosper and obtain the land for their inheritance. And I beheld that they were white and exceedingly fair and beautiful, like unto my people before they were slain. Right. Let's see. Where's a good one?
And by the way, we should point out that
here's the one. Okay.
I'm going to interject and just point out that the entire conceit of this book is that these are Middle Easterners who have crossed so like Middle East. Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. They were definitely white for sure.
Exactly. Right. Yeah. And then here we go. This is Third Nephi. Now, if you don't know the order of the books in the Book of Mormon, you would think that Third Nephi would come really closely after First Nephi. Maybe, like after just 2 books later.
Yeah.
Right, after Second Nephi. It doesn't. This is way later. This is after the rise and falls, or the nations sort of rise and fall in righteousness and iniquity, right?
Yeah, it's a different Nephi.
It's a very different Nephi and a very different time. It's like way later, way later, like 1,000 years later or whatever. And it says, and it came to pass that those Lamanites, remember, those are the brown ones, who had united with the Nephites, were numbered among the Nephites. And their curse was taken from them, and their skin became white, like unto the Nephites. And their young men and their daughters became exceedingly fair, and they were numbered among the Nephites, and were called Nephites. They were so white, they could just blend right in. Right.
Yeah.
And it just goes on and on. And this is the it is one of the takeaways of the Book of Mormon is that righteous people are white. Right.
Yeah.
Righteous people turn white over the course of generations if they continue in righteousness.
Or immediately.
There's actually one story that it's like very, very, very. Actually, the one I just read. There's no time frame there, right?
No, I love but here's the thing: it's not like they confined that to the times of the Book of Mormon. Mormons for decades for a century believed that brown people who were righteous could just over their lifetime become more white. I've heard
Mormons say that.
The president,
I've literally like this. Yeah. This is, in my experience as a Mormon, right? I have heard older members of the ward, amongst the other white people, talk about some of the, whether it was Native Americans who maybe were members of the ward, or
Mexicans or
Mexican, like, and they would comment on, don't you think they just look a little bit whiter? They would say it. And where did they get it? They got it from their most sacred book. And so, so looping back to Russell M. Nelson, right?
Yeah.
And the fact that he would dare call racists to repent, which I think is a good thing, right?
Sure.
I think racists being called out and being told that they need to change is a good thing. But to do so without facing your own racist problems as an organization is hypocrisy at its finest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. This is a guy who's the head of a church that oppressed black people until the late 70s, well after the rest of the country had sort of figured it out, at least on an institutional level, that like there's supposed to be some equality there. Yeah. Like way late in the game, they do this. And did they ever apologize for any of the bullshit that came before? Did they ever do anything remotely like a repentance? No. Fuck no.
They
swept it under the rug, and if anyone brought it up, they got offended.
Literally have never apologized ever.
Yeah,
because as
Utah was a slave territory,
which just fucking blows my mind.
Yeah,
how in God's name?
Yeah. We'll need to read it, but there's a new book that just launched by Joanna Brooks, who's a faithful Mormon. I think she's still faithful, but it's about white supremacy within the church, and I want to read it.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Cool.
So there you go. All right. Well, I'm going to take us to the United States Supreme Court, which is an entity in which I have ever decreasing faith, but there is a little bit of light coming from that building this week, because in a 5-4 vote, the Supreme Court shot down a church that was desperately claiming that California had no right to tell them that they couldn't meet together, even during a pandemic.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Yeah, Roberts, across the political divide, so to speak.
Yeah, Chief Justice Roberts, who apparently is starting to go, oh shit, they'll call this my court in the history books. I gotta be on the right side of a few of these things.
Well, people have always sort of said this about Roberts, that he would, that he values the court's balance as much as anything, right? And so he's willing to side with the liberals on the court, or in order to sort of help maintain that balance. He's actually a fascinating character. I don't like him and I don't agree with him usually, but like at least he's an intellectually how do you say? He has an intellectual integrity, I guess, is probably the best way to say it.
The dissent was written by frat boy Brett Kavanaugh, who basically just said, "But it's a church; they should be able to do what they want." Yeah. Over and over and over for several pages.
Just copy and paste.
Right. So.
Well, I mean, that's great news. It's great news.
Yeah.
It's a great development. Right.
So in this country, yes, indeed, the government is allowed to say it's not in the interest of the public and their health for you to meet, and you still have to listen to them, even if Jesus told you not to.
Good. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, Dan. I've got some prophet news. I love prophets. They're just so much fun, right?
Who doesn't love a good prophet, man?
Because
they're the best.
They just spout off. They just say whatever's on their mind. Like last week, wishful thinkers is basically what they should be called.
Right,
Well, wishful thinker T.B. Joshua, who is apparently he's quite famous in Nigeria.
Okay.
He came out mid-March and said that the coronavirus will go away all by itself on March 27th.
Oh, okay. Oh, he had a date.
Yeah. And he also gave himself tons of time, right? That's some bold prophesying when you see the world totally crumbling, right?
Yeah.
And people just getting sick left, right, and center. To pick a date that's only 12 days later, right? That's smart.
Yeah.
But I guess if you're just going to make stuff up, you might as well just make it up. But
here's the thing. Imagine if he had been right. That would have blown everybody's mind.
He was shooting the moon, I guess, on this one. But let's see. What were some of the details of this that I wanted to bring up? He says, I came out at the beginning of this year saying last year will end in March, and the year will continue to be very fearful until this month. What? This month, on the 27th, it will be over. By the end of this month, whether we like it or not, no matter the medicine they might have produced to cure whatever, it will go the way it came. So, of course, it didn't go away. And
I don't even know what that means. It will go the way it came. Suddenly it'll go back to China?
I guess so. I don't know. So he came out afterwards and he goes, "Oh my God." Yeah. And this is always their defense, right? I love it. It's not always their defense, but it's so commonly their defense. And he goes, "What I meant was spiritual, not physical." Right?
Yeah.
He says that men of today lack understanding, and it clearly shows how people perceived his revelation. He said, "I meant coronavirus would vanish spiritually the way it came. As I speak, the virus is no more in the spirit realm."
Angels are not getting it at all.
They're safe. Angels are safe, which is wonderful. He says, I didn't specify. God. He says, get this. I didn't specify. So why would people conclude I meant physically?
Oh,
men of today lack understanding.
It's obvious when you think about it.
Instead of taking time,
when you really put your mind to it, oh my God, what is he talking about?
Like, why would you say that to a group of people who are obviously concerned about the coronavirus, right? Which is something that up until this point, I guess we didn't know that it existed spiritually, right? And that it was a problem for angels. And so, like, you're going to have to spell this out for us, dude. Like, if you meant spiritually, that would have been a good thing to say back then, right?
Yeah.
Say
if
by
you
the
want
27th,
us to take your prophecy seriously, you got to give it to us in whole at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, we won't be able to test it. You'll still just be able to say that you were right all along, right?
Right.
Never fear, everybody. The angels are safe.
It's not in the spiritual realm at all.
Everybody,
we did it, everybody. We got rid of the virus.
Stop making your spiritual respirators and your spiritual masks. We appreciate you sewing them at home so to send off to the angels, but don't worry, they're safe.
Oh my God.
The Lord hath provided.
Yeah.
Amazing, right?
Oh my God. So stupid. Prophets, man. They're not great. Let's just put it this way. Even Nostradamus got, let me just do a quick calculation, 0% of things right, unless you stretch and bend everything to beyond the bounds of it possibly being a thing.
I don't know. Didn't he predict World War I?
Yeah, okay. Anyway, I wanted to talk about an event that most of our listeners will be aware of, will have seen pictures of, and that is our president, our leader and healer, the guy we all look to right now for comfort.
Please don't. There is no comfort
anyway,
there.
Donald Trump. In the midst of all of these riots, no, let's not say riots, because there have been a few riots, but really minimal rioting. That's just what's getting all the press. In the midst of all of these peaceful protests against police brutality, one of the most brutal moments of the entire week came when Donald Trump decided he wanted to go and pose with a Bible in front of a church.
Yeah.
And of course, this started with there were people protesting in front of that church peacefully, kindly. Mm-hmm. There were little tables set up for medical help. If you needed some medical help, you could get some water if you needed it. It was just a cute little protest, just, sweet. And then suddenly, jackbooted thugs came in with tear gas and flash grenades and, literally gassed them off of away from the church, including the church's own parish priests. They all gassed them away, and then an hour later, up comes Mr. Trump with his prop Bible, which is amazing because if you guys have seen the pictures, it's like he's never held a book before in his life. The man looks so awkward. Every time he holds it, he's holding it awkwardly in front of himself, a foot and a half away from his body in case it burns him, or he holds it kind of up and away from himself. It's
kind of like he's
the weirdest.
He's holding it, wondering or asking the crowd, "Whose is this? Whose does this belong to?"
Somebody lose a book? Anybody? I found a book. It says Bible on it. Oh my God, it is so creepy. And he just stands there with this blank face and dead eyes and just holds it. And he did this at multiple religious locations over the last few days. And I gotta say, first of all, the bishop and the priest for that Episcopal church that he did the first thing to, both disavowed the event completely. Yeah. They weren't checked in with at all. They both said it was the opposite of what Jesus would do. Yeah. And disavowed it completely. And then he just kept doing it. He went to a Catholic shrine to Pope John Paul. That's a big thing with his wife, who she claims to be Irish or to be Catholic. So okay, but they went there, and I don't know if you've seen this video, Frank. I watched the video of them standing in front of this, 15-foot tall statue of the Pope, and there's a moment, you guys, you got to look it up. There's a moment where he grabs her hand, and there are lots of different videos of her swatting his hand away when he tries to grab it, which is creepy and hilarious and scary and all the things. It's very clear that she does not want to be anywhere near this man. He grabs her hand and she knows she can't let go, but she jerks, and it is terrifying. It's genuinely, it feels what a kidnap victim would do or whatever. Her response is crazed. Ugh. But yeah, they even apparently tried to put on a show of praying there, because one of the big complaints of him going to the other church was he didn't even try to pray. Right. He didn't. Yeah, I mean, so you mentioned Marianne Budd, the bishop of the Episcopalian church that he stood in front of. She said he didn't come to church to pray. He didn't come to church to offer condolences to those who are grieving. He didn't come to commit to healing our nation. Right. All the things that one would expect and long for from the highest leader of our land. Yeah. Which is true, because what he had said just a few minutes before that was that he was going to send in the military if the governors couldn't get the protesters in line.
Yeah, it's insane. It's absolutely insane. But she spoke real truth, right? Her comments and I've seen her in an interview, since. She's not asking for she's completely reasonable, right?
Right.
She's just don't use us as a prop, right? You're still welcome here, sort of speaking, to him, I guess. She says that he's welcome. Just come and do what
he
people
opened
do
himself
at
up to
church.
this.
Yeah.
If he had just called and said, "Hey, we want to do something in your church. Can we work with you on that? She would have said yes. She would have said, let's issue a joint statement. Let's calm the people. Let's blah, blah, blah. He just fucking walked over.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me. He opened himself up to all of these criticisms. Whereas if he had done it the right way, he would have the blessing of the religious community. Yeah. Instead, it wasn't just her. The Catholic Archbishop of D.C., the Reverend Wilton Gregory, said, here's his quote. I find it baffling and reprehensible that any Catholic facility would allow itself to be so egregiously misused and manipulated in a fashion that violates our religious principles, which call us to defend the rights of all people, even those with whom we might disagree.
Wow.
These people are not pulling punches.
Yeah.
So there you go. Well, ladies and germs, if you guys have anything you'd like to say about Donald Trump in front of churches or any of the things we've talked about today, you can write to us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave the voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click the like button.
And while you're there, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It is a closed group, but we will let you in. Also find us on Twitter @TGIAtheist. So Dan,
hey,
we're gonna play a little audio clippy from one of our all-time faves, who's not going to be with us much longer, but so we need to cherish him as much as we can, and that's Mr. Pat Robertson.
And the reason that he's our fave, the thing that makes him so great,
it's not because we like him.
No, he's a turd of a man. But what's amazing about him is you can't get a finger on him. Like a lot of these other guys, you can just label them just shithead and you'll know exactly what they're going to say about any subject and it's just going to be obvious or whatever. But not Patty Boy. Every now and then you're like, what? He comes out of left field with like a meteorological report or like you don't know what's going to happen. And this one actually surprised me a little bit.
You know, there's a purpose of everything under heaven we read in the Bible, and there's a time, and it seems like now is the time to say, I understand your pain. I want to comfort you. I think it's time we love each other. But the president took a different course. He said, I am the president of law and order. And he issued a heads up. He said, I'm ready to send in military troops if the nation's governors don't act to quell the violence that has rocked American city. As a matter of fact, he spoke of them as being jerks. You just don't do that, Mr. President. It isn't cool.
It isn't cool.
That's not cool.
It's not cool.
You know who's the arbiter of what's cool?
Well,
a cool cat like Pat Robertson.
He's got his black turtleneck and tan blazer on. Like, yeah, he's looking pretty cool.
He knows what cool looks like.
Cool. I mean, he was, hey, I'm a cool cat.
Dude.
Back in the day.
President Trump, that's not cool. It's everything about that clip. It is the fact that he is like actually correct in his assessment of what a president should be doing in that moment.
Yeah.
It is the fact that he's using the word cool. Like everything about that clip makes me happy and confused.
Donald Trump.
There you go. All right. Well, we had some folks write into us, and I wanted to read those. Jeremy wrote into us. You remember, Frank, that you and I were talking about the people hollering from the minarets in mosques, and how we didn't want that at 5 a.m. But I think we mentioned that church bells can actually be kind of nice.
Somebody doesn't like church bells.
Well, Jeremy said, if you like church bells so damn much, come to Switzerland. Bang, 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 every 15 minutes, 24/7. Plus a 10-minute bell bangathon at 6 or 7 a.m. and 7 or 8 p.m. Not to mention extended bang outs on Sunday. I'll take the minaret concert. At least I can get more than a quarter of an hour of uninterrupted sleep at a go.
It sounds delightful.
Does not. Does it? I mean, not if you're right near the church.
Not if you're near the church. I mean, I lived in Rome, for crying out loud. Like, I know something of church bells, and elsewhere in some smaller towns in Italy. Like,
I wonder if it is different for Switzerland, just because they prided themselves on their clocks for so long. Is that what it is?
They
just
very
needed to show off their
bell ringing.
They're like, it's our only thing. We can't bong a Swiss Army knife. We've got to go with the bells.
Yeah. No, I don't know. Like, okay, yeah. Any of this could be taken to an extreme, right?
Yeah.
But if I'm going to take one versus the other, I don't know. Dong, dong, dong. That's a little bit more tolerable.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I agree. Although, I've never tried to live next to a church that did everything every 15 minutes. That
does seem excessive.
A bit much.
Right. And 6 a.m. in the morning also seems excessive.
Yeah.
I'm more talking about, just some tolling and Sunday morning,
Yeah, every Sunday and Christmas there's a bing bong, bing bong, bing bong, bing bong.
Or like, wedding. There's a wedding.
Sure.
Ring the bells. We're
How am I supposed to know if there's a wedding without you ringing those bells? Weddings are big for me. I think you have a voicemail that you should play.
I do. This is from a young listener of ours. And he has a question. So let's hear what he has to say.
Hey guys, this is Connor from Durham. I'm a high schooler. And I identify as agnostic. But specifically not atheist, because one of these things that obviously I don't think any of the present religions are correct. I see loopholes in all of them and how logical fallacies exist. But how do you feel about something else that could have happened? Because humans didn't come around for a reason. Evolution couldn't have happened so perfectly. So how do you address this issue?
Thanks, Connor.
Yeah, thank you.
It's a good question. Here's the thing. You're going to have to define perfectly for me, because I don't think humans are remotely perfect.
Right.
I think humans are a goddamned mess.
But we like to think of ourselves as sort of the culmination of evolution, right?
Or as these superior beings, these amazing, if God didn't create us,
right? How
are we so amazing? Well, guess what? We're slow.
Uh-huh.
We have cognitive biases like crazy.
Yeah.
I have nipples. Why the hell do I have nipples?
Tailbone. Appendix.
What's that?
Right? Like
we are
have
a
these
mess.
Vestiges of vestigial organs, actually, that come from, that are useless. Why are they there? Well, they were useful at one point. Not now. Why do we have why are our eyes like kooky weird? Just
there's a hole in all of our vision that our eyes have to just sort of train out, but it's there. We can't actually see very well. Why is our breathe hole the same as our eat hole?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. The fact that we can choke on our food is the stupidest design choice of all time. Like, it's such an easy fix. Whales breathe out of one hole and eat out of another hole, and they're doing great.
It's very clever.
It's just put the breathe hole in the back.
Apex. They're worked out perfectly for them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's
anyway.
it's so easy to look at us and think, oh, we're great. But if you look a little closer, no.
Right.
I mean, we're good. Like when you get a bunch of us together, like we've evolved to be a really cool species as a sort of organized unit. But you put one of us up against almost anything in the world, and we lose. We are a sad species if there's only one.
Yeah. So, I mean, to the question, right?
Yeah,
which all of this has been in response to. I personally I think I kind of know maybe where the root of this question is. It's if you grew up being told that everything was sort of created and designed, right?
Right.
Like it can be hard to look at the world and shift from the wonder of God's creation, which is one way to look at it, right? And to shift to the wonder of the cosmos, wonder of like that it did all happen, right? That it somehow came together, and we do have this moment of consciousness, right?
Right.
During which we get to look at the beauty that is around us. But all of that beauty and all of that appreciation is a result of our environment that we came up in, right? So to speak, right? Like again, we see ourselves as being pretty awesome because you know, and seeing like you know, wow, it's amazing that somehow we got 2 of these arm things, right? Well, if we had 4, we'd be like, yeah, obviously 4 arms is amazing, right? Like however we ended up, so to speak, right? However a sentient being ends up, they're going to look at themselves and go, yeah, these thumb things are fucking awesome.
Yeah,
and they are, right?
Better than I am than all these non-thumb having dickhead species.
And believe me, I'm glad I have thumbs, right? but maybe thumbs aren't the only way. We just happen to get thumbs. So
yeah, and there's also this notion that you know, I mean, and a lot of this came. You mentioned, Connor, this idea of not wanting to be called an atheist. As opposed to an agnostic. And here's the thing. I want to give you permission to be both. You can be an atheist who's not sure. Because the trick is nobody knows for sure
right.
Whether there are gods in the universe. We can't disprove it. That's not how logic works. So go ahead and be an agnostic. I am. But I also don't have any beliefs in any gods. And that makes me an atheist.
Yeah, there you go.
Both things are fine. So there you go. We had another email. Let me just grab that real quick. This is from Josh, who says, "Hi, Frank." Oh, and this is about the Christian rock musician that we talked about last week, who left his faith behind. "Hey, Frank and Dan. While listening to your segment on John Steingard, I was reminded of how the deconversion of a Christian musician played a part in my own questioning of faith. Pete Stewart of the band Grandma Train," really? Grandma Train? These guys are terrible at naming their bands. Said in an interview that he no longer identified as Christian. At the time, it upset and confused me, but it was one of the many things that, when taken together, gave me permission to step back and ask whether I truly believed in all of what I'd been taught about God and religion. And hey, these days I spend my Sunday mornings listening to Thank God I'm Atheist, so I think we know where that path took me. To me, the public deconversion of someone like John Steingard isn't for or about us as an atheist community. I'm not worried about him speaking on behalf of non-believers. I see this as an invitation to those with whom he has influence to start asking their own questions. Deep down, his story will probably play a part in someone else leaving religion the way that they were raised in. It may not be what ultimately persuades anyone, but it will likely be a catalyst for somebody like Pete Stewart was for me.
I think that's an awesome perspective.
I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
And it's kind of shocking to me that we didn't touch on that even in the slightest. So We missed that one entirely. That is a fantastic point.
Shocking that we missed something. Really?
Yeah, I know. You and I are usually exactly on the ball. We are like the razor's edge of perfection. But that time we missed a very big part of that deal. So yes,
Absolutely.
I'm glad to hear that worked for you, Josh. Yeah. And hopefully you're right. Hopefully this guy leaving his shitty band and their shitty faith behind will help somebody else.
All right. And then we have another voicemail, Dan.
Cool.
This is from a listener by the name of Alina. She has a question. What's in a way, it's almost like it's kind of a dating question. So she definitely came to the right gurus on that front for advice. Yeah. So let's have a listen.
Hey guys, it's Alina from Texas. I'm in a little bit of a situation. There's a guy who I've known from work for a few years, and recently he decided to really just turn on the charm, and he's been hitting on me. And I've told him, I'm not looking for romance, and I'm really not interested right now, and, you're not for me. But he just wants me to go to church with him. He wants me to be in the faith with him. And I keep telling him, I'm an atheist. You need to find a woman of faith. And I think that me telling him I don't believe in God makes him like me more because he wants to save me. And I've said it very clear, and it's gotten to the point where I started avoiding him. And I don't want to have to block him because he's not a bad guy, but he's a little too thick to understand what I'm trying to say. I don't know. Just wondering what your thoughts are.
Well, I have a few thoughts.
Well, yeah, I do too. By the way, hi, Alina. If you're the Alina that we met when we were in Texas, hi.
Hi.
Yeah, I got a lot of thoughts on this, but go ahead, Frank. What do you got?
Well, I kind of, I want to start. Well, the thing that really kind of caught my attention was just sort of the idea of sort of the unrelenting pursuer. Right.
Yeah.
The guy who thinks that if he just that maybe Alina is playing hard to get or something like that.
Yeah. No
right?
means maybe. Come on, you guys.
Yeah. And so, I mean, that's a problem right there. Right. Like Alina says that he's a good guy and doesn't want to, block him or have to avoid him or whatever. And I appreciate the desire to kind of be nice. Ish, but there's also the thing of you gotta just kind of if you're saying no and this guy isn't picking up on it, that's a big deal to me, right? That's a big no.
I just wanted to chime in on that because here's the thing, guys of my generation and earlier were trained to do that.
Yeah.
The media told us we were supposed to do that. The movies, the TV shows all told us you pursue a woman. You don't just ask her out and then that's the end of it.
Right.
No. The game is afoot.
Yeah.
Now it's how, you take a different tack. You try another angle. That's wrong, fellas.
Yeah.
I just got to say, there's in no uncertain terms, this is not how this works now. Yeah. And we need to learn it and honor it.
Yeah.
Because a no just means no.
Yeah.
You're done, son. You got to give up on that. If later she changes her mind, she'll tell you. She'll come back.
Yeah, don't worry, she'll remember that you were being a creep.
Or she'll remember that you're interested at least.
That you're interested and you went away. That you respected her. Right.
Yeah, that's gonna win a lot of points.
Yeah.
Frankly, if you say, "Cool, I respect that," I'll leave off, and then you show her that you're a cool guy in other ways to other people and all the people around you, maybe she'll be interested and she'll come to you. But if not,
but also don't keep
you
that
gotta
in your
let
head.
it go.
That's not something to keep in your head as kind of like your action plan. Well, I'm going to go be a good guy and a cool guy for her because then she'll come. No. Just move on, dude. Ultimately, just move on. She said no.
Correct.
Move on. And then the other part that kind of stands out is just the fact that he's taking it more as a challenge.
Oh my God!
Because he's more interested, because now she's also like this project. This guy is bad news. Period. Like, get away.
It's just
move on.
Again,
Projects
there's a training problem here.
Like, right?
There's a problem of how he's been trained here, and that problem is that his church has told him that someone who doesn't believe is a golden opportunity to save them. You can bring them to Christ and you get to be their savior.
Yeah.
And there's nothing grosser in the world than a savior. So don't try to save another person. Be there for people. That's great. Support people. Awesome.
Yeah.
Don't try to save somebody. That's gross. But Alina, as far as like how you're going to deal with this or handle it or whatever, that's on you, girl. I mean, it sounds like you've been direct with him.
Yeah.
It sounds like more directness might be required if you want to salvage the friendship. It sounds like really what needs to happen is you need to sit him down and say, listen, you're really bothering me right now.
Yeah.
This has gone too far. I have said no too many times and you're not hearing me. And we can't be friends if you continue this way.
Right. Yeah.
And I want to be your friend, but I'm not going to be your friend if you can't honor my boundaries.
Right. And also respect who I am.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Why would he want to date someone who, like, yeah, okay. It's just dumb.
Because it makes such a great story, Dan. Like, they'll be able to tell their grandchildren about how grandpa saved grandma from, you know, a life of atheism.
Yeah,
Nope.
exactly.
Nope.
It's gross. It's gross. All right. Well, do we have some folks to thank?
We do, Dan. We have 3 new patrons on Patreon. Actually, Dan, before we even get to all of that, I have something of an announcement. We have officially, now, longtime listeners of the show, people who've been around for a little while, will recall that for a while we were running a campaign on Patreon, right? That we had goals, right? And at a certain point, we sort of recognized and we sort of read the temperature of the room, right? We read and we were like, you know what? We have a lot of supporters and we have a lot of people who have been giving for a while and who are so incredibly supportive of the show. And maybe we should stop sort of inserting this conversation into every single episode. Let's just give it a little bit of a rest, right, for just a minute. Still say that it's out there. If you want to join, great, but let's stop like doing the hard sell. So we stopped for a while, but that didn't stop people from like signing up, right? And so slowly over time, we've hit a goal that we were being kind of quiet about. And so at this point, we've hit the goal of having a total number of supporters where 3/4, so 3 out of every 4 shows is going to be ad-free.
Wow. Hey, you guys, you did it.
Yeah. We'll shut the ads off. So it is possible, folks, that you might be listening on a platform out there somewhere that is hooked up, has grabbed onto our RSS feed, and that we haven't authorized. And if you're hearing ads, when we're saying that you're not supposed to be hearing ads, you're listening on one of those platforms. There are some sort of lesser and minor podcasting platforms out there that apparently do this. We're shutting off the ads that we have control of. And so that's what's going on there. So we're at 3 out of every 4 shows will now be ad-free. We're only 20 supporters away at the moment. This is going to be the only hard sell you hear for a little while on this. But at the moment, we are 20 members away from
completely
shutting
ad-free.
off ads entirely. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, like, if you've been thinking about it, this might be a good time. Go sign up. And what you're doing with that act of generosity is shutting it off for everyone. Because as soon as you become a supporter, you already get access to an RSS feed that is ad-free.
It's an ad-free.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you're golden there. But you're helping the entire community of listeners to not have to deal with these ads anymore. We decided a long time ago we don't like them, but they've been a necessary evil but we kind of figured out, well, how many supporters, sort of your average supporter, will it take for us to wean ourselves off of any ad revenue? And so that's how we structured the whole thing. So if you want to sign up, you can go to thankgodimatheist.com, click on the support tab, follow it through, and then we have 3 people to thank, Dan.
Yes.
We have a new teacher by the name of Megan. Thank you, Megan. You held the 2nd office in the Aaronic priesthood now.
Blessed be you.
We have a new priest, Simon. Thank you, Simon.
Ooh, Simon.
You can break bread.
You can bless
and
the sacrament.
Yeah. And then we have Randy, who signed up as a high priest, is I believe the level that he signed up at.
Whoa.
It sounds super fancy. It usually just means you're napping during church.
You have permission to be old.
Usually what that means. But thank you so much for all of your support. And as always, we have our top donor, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
Yay! Well, thanks all of you. You're amazing. If you would like to join the ranks of the people who give a little bit to this show every week, please feel free to go to thankgodimatheist.com, click the support tab. It's so easy. You decide what level you want to support us at, and we'll just appreciate you.
Thanks, guys. Dan.
Hey.
So you were actually the one to bring this letter from a Christian dad to my attention today.
Oh my God! It is astounding
the worst thing I've read in so long. Like, it's horrifying. He's like it's basically he writes this letter to the young man who, like, 10 years prior, by the way, who, quote, stole his daughter's virginity.
Yeah. He's a damn thief.
Yeah. And you go through the whole thing, and the dad is just, like, making this case, essentially, for, like, his daughter's virginity belonging to him, to the father, right?
And being a commodity of value.
Yeah.
That this guy stole from his daughter, but more from him. Like, the dad was really the owner and protector of his daughter's virginity. And this guy came along, years ago and took it. And
right.
It's a remarkable letter. I think you guys should all look it up if you get the chance to.
Yeah, we should post it on places where people follow us online. Because it is so wretched. But some of the highlights. What were your highlights, Dan?
Oh man, here's the thing. He starts out by saying, "It has been nearly 10 years since I learned that you stole my daughter Blank's virginity. Initially, it was my intention to forgive you," which, that to me right there, that would be a good Christian way to handle this. But this dude is a Old Testament Christian, not a New Testament Christian. Nobody told him that Jesus has even existed yet. So he said, "But after I confronted you about it and you expressed repentance, I later learned that you have since gone and done the same to others. Moreover, you have regarded the matter more like winning a game than the despicable deed it was."
Ugh.
It's just, here's the thing. For a long time, a woman's virginity, and this didn't really apply to men, and it obviously doesn't apply to men in this guy's mind either. A woman's virginity was something to be sought. It was something to be guarded and protected.
Right.
And okay, great, but this isn't 1630 or 1820s. This is now.
Right.
And somebody along the way figured out that women are actually in charge of their own bodies.
Well, that's been a little bit more recently than even the 1820s, Dan, to be fair.
Yeah, I know. But it had, but a little less, but at least this guy, it's our lifetime.
Well,
we know
and to
this
be
now.
fair, you don't have to look very far to find, what is it, about a third of the country, a quarter of the country, that absolutely doesn't believe that a woman has a right to her own body with abortion laws, right?
There is that.
So, but and obviously this guy is of that ilk, right? That women don't have their own autonomy. They aren't their own agents, right?
Right.
And that they're to be protected by their fathers and then handed over to their husbands. I love this line. He says, "For a brief pleasure, you forever took from me the sublime joy of giving my pure virgin daughter away in marriage to her chosen husband." What?
I love that he's happy to let her choose the husband
He's very progressive.
to whom he will give her virginity.
Well, let me tell you though, that guy, in order to be good with, whoever this potential husband is, in order to be good with his future father-in-law, this douchebag, he's gonna have to play so many stupid games. Imagine if he doesn't give this man the correct deferential respect and all the stupid traditions of asking for his daughter's hand in marriage and crap like that.
Totally. This is definitely that guy. This is the guy who would be mortified if the son-in-law didn't come to him and say, "I'd like your permission to marry your daughter."
Oh, God, it's so gross.
It's so gross. I like it's amazing. I mean, and here's what's amazing is, I will tell you, this is a quote, "I will tell you that my wrath against you is so great that to kill you by prolonged and extreme torture followed by thorough desecration and destruction of your corpse would not be enough to extinguish my anger. However, I am restrained from doing violence against you by the sole fact that I have given my heart to our Savior Jesus Christ." Yeah. Oh my God, you're mentally ill. And
ill. And a really good Christian, apparently.
Yeah.
Like a true follower of Jesus Christ. What would Jesus do? What would Jesus do in this situation?
It always terrifies me. Many people have pointed out that one of the scariest things is when a Christian person asks a non-Christian, "Well, what's keeping you from murdering somebody if you don't believe in Jesus?" This guy clearly thinks that if he didn't believe in Jesus, it would be he would just have to murder. He'd have to do straight up, he would go full Dexter on this dude.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this guy, his Christian faith is both the problem and the one thing keeping him from
Right.
Okay, thank God, I guess, in some way, but also isn't that the same faith that's gotten him to this ridiculous fucked up point? Now, I mean, the guy's a Neanderthal, and maybe he would have been a Neanderthal anyway.
Who knows?
And I probably shouldn't malign Neanderthals, actually.
Here's the thing. We said something about mental illness before, and he may have some sort of mental illness, but he may not. And, there's nothing wrong with having mental illness.
Right.
But this guy, it may well be that his only mental illness is his religion. It may well be that the only thing that is fucked in his brain is that he believes this nonsense, and he goes through it. Yeah. He's got a list, he wants to get litigious about it.
Yeah.
But he knows he can't go to the courts because there's nothing to prosecute in man's law.
Right.
But he's going to go to God's law, and oh my God, he has a solution.
Yeah.
He has petitioned the courts of heaven to I can't do it. So I have petitioned the courts of heaven to take from you and give to me that which is your dearest possession, your youth and all the goods that goes with it. Specifically, this is a direct quote. I demand divine restitution that will age you and rejuvenate me 49 years.
And he has math to support the 49 years.
Yeah, he's done the calculations on that. Therefore, if from this date you discover that you have aged significantly or are aging rapidly, know that it is not a medical condition. It is the judgment of God. You do not have reverse Benjamin Button syndrome. You are being punished by the Lord.
So, like, I'm reading that. I'm like, so, like, in this guy's mind, were like the ancient prophets who lived to like be like 900 years old or whatever, right? Were their daughters just having their like virginity stolen left and right? Like, is that the way that you live to be 900 years old? Like, what is this guy? Where's this guy getting off with this? Like, where does he come up with this? This is absolute pure insanity.
Yeah, and he goes through a whole bunch of different like reasonings for it, you know, biblical passages that he thinks grants him the right to this. It is amazing.
Yeah.
And truly, I guess, I mean, is the takeaway from this that this is the logical conclusion of Bible literalism? Because it kind of feels like that's what it is.
I mean, the problem with Bible literalism is that you can, I mean, just as easily, well, no, I guess it's going to take you 1,000 different directions, right?
Oh, that's true.
You can just manipulate it however you want. And
Sure.
it's still literal, right?
Yeah.
It's still the literal word of the Bible. Well, except for that other part that you're not paying attention to. And and that other part that completely contradicts the stance that you just took, right? Like,
right. But I believe literally these specific parts of the Bible that I'm picking and choosing. I believe them literally.
oh yeah.
And I'm ignoring the rest.
And here's the question that I sincerely would want to ask the dad, or this dad guy, is I want to know if he had sex before marriage.
Oh, interesting.
Right? Like, who did he steal what father out there did he steal the virginity from? Because that's also the trick here,
question.
right? Is it stealing the virginity from the father?
Yeah.
Which is quite the sexual act for a 17-year-old, I would assume, right? Like,
yeah. It's amazing. Yeah, her virginity belongs to him. and it's the phrasing, you deliberately took from me my most precious treasure.
Yeah.
Like he's fucking, like her virginity is Gollum and his ring. It's like, it's amazing. Like he sees it as his own possession and literally nothing in his brain. Also, he's been seething about it for 10 years, which is madness.
Right.
But nothing in his brain has ever thought to go, well, maybe that's between my daughter and him and not my business. Like, it's never occurred to him at all that this was that there's anything, that there is any flaw in his thinking. He has just been sitting, eating Cheetos and stewing and raging for 10 years.
God damn it.
And we'll continue to do so because he's not going to get any younger. Well, sorry, buddy. Like, it's not going to, like, the courts of heaven have convened and they say no. So you get to stew and be angry for the rest of your goddamn life if you don't have some epiphanies and fast.
Oh my God. It's like I mean, clearly he's just been scouring the Bible.
Oh yeah.
For 10 years. Right.
And he's looking only for one thing. He's looking for only for passages that support his rage.
Right.
And his, and
somewhere in all of that, right, his favorite book is The Portrait of Dorian Gray.
Right? Yeah.
Because I don't know how else you get like some weird fucked up idea about aging like this. Like this is coming out of nowhere. Or Benjamin Button, I guess, right?
Or something. Like, it's an amazing proposition.
It's completely unique. Like I've never heard this one. Right? This is so new and fresh to me.
What's beautiful about it, and is also the saddest part maybe of this whole thing, is that it's clear that he believes in this magic. Like, this is, because here's the thing. The Bible, Christianity, it really does promise magic.
Yeah.
And that was one of the big things that destroyed my faith, was that I was promised magic as a young Mormon, and I was given the magic powers. I was ordained into the magic. They told me I would have it, and I didn't feel any different, and I couldn't make anything cool happen, and the world just kept spinning exactly as it had been before, and no matter what I asked of the world or the universe or God, everything just kept going on the same that it was. Here's a man who's, middle-aged or later, who still believes that the magic is real, and that magical thinking will solve this problem, and that he has the solution. And you got to think a guy like this has been disappointed over and over and over again by his God, and he just keeps going back for more punishment. It's so sad.
Well, Dan, I actually do have to disagree with you about one thing, though. Like you said that, you got the priesthood, and then you couldn't do anything. There was no magic. Dan, you could pass the sacrament. You could set the sacrament up 2 years later, and then 2 years after that, you could actually bless the sacrament. What are you talking about? You didn't get to do any magic.
Let me tell you something.
That's such a magical experience as a young man.
I tried to make those experiences, like, it's a stupid thing to care about. And for those of you who were never Mormon, what I want you to imagine is dopey pre-adolescence and adolescence, like trying to look as somber as they can, as they like literally take a piece of the cheapest bread you can find and rip it into pieces with their grubby hands for the entire congregation to partake in. Right. And this was the big new thing that you could do. And I bought into it. I wanted it. I made it a big deal in my head. Even that, I really tried to make a thing.
Well, but eventually been made a big deal for you. Like,
yeah.
Like, this is like, it is like your mother was so proud. Right. Right.
Well, what's funny is I don't think my parents were, but I was told that they would be. My parents, I think, got that this was not a real big deal, but I was told by the rest of the church that they would be really proud of me. Oh man, it's just so sad. This is religion distilled down to its purest form. This is the straight dope. You don't want to snort it this pure. It's dangerous
toxic.
For you and the people around you. Oh, Lord. Well, kids, if you would like to tell us your own stories of snorting toxic religion, you can do so by emailing us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, hey, go to the Facebook page, facebook.com/TGIAtheist, and click on the like button.
And while you're there, search for the TGIA Members Only Lounge and request to join. It is a closed group. We will let you in. Also find us on Twitter @TGIAtheist.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Facebook, thanks so much to Danny and Amy for being moderators in the Members Only Lounge.
And of course, a big thanks goes out to the Red Rock Hot Club and also to Gordon Johnston for the use of their music.
And thanks to all of you for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Bye-bye.